eventually we got the opportunity to buy the land where we sit right now. It was bare land, 80 acres, 30 acres tillable, typical corn, soybean rotation with a little bit of hay. And then since then we've rented another farm next to us for 75 acres and then another farm of 200 acres. All together, we run about 275 tillable. We weren't looking to be, a corn and soy person, that type of a farm. We wanted to be, a little bit less capital intensive. That was a big factor for us. We wanted to farm, but we didn't want to have to go out and buy the big combine, the big tractor, all that kind of stuff. With grazing, it's just a little bit different lifestyle. I go out to move cattle in the morning or at night. It's 10 minutes out there with the cows. Pretty calm most of the time. Everybody knows when you got to work cattle, it's sometimes stressful, but and then with our grazing, we want to graze as long as possible. The last thing I want to do is start feeding hay. And so the last 3 years now, we've made it to about the middle of January, end of January sometimes, before we have to start feeding hay. We are 100% grass fed here, grass fed, grass finished. We direct market all of our beef. I'm looking at how much weight am I putting on that animal per day and what is that worth to me, essentially. And I'm looking at a 180-day grazing season. So obviously, if you're grazing 200 days, 240 days, whatever it is, that, just increases these numbers essentially. But I charge $4.50 per pound live or hanging weight, and we put on pretty close to 2 pounds a day live weight on our animals here as we're feeding them out. And so just conservatively, I say that I'm putting on 1 pound of hanging weight a day. It's probably a little bit more than that, but just conservatively at 1 pound a day. So 180 days times $4.5 times 1 pound per day, $800 of revenue. So, this is assuming that you got a fat animal out there, whether you bought it in the spring or you're carrying it over from the winter or whatever it is, you're putting on $4.50 of value every single day that animal's out there. And in this scenario, I'm saying that you're only running one animal per acre because you got it, whether it's a 1,500-pound steer or whatever it is, and that's $800. As you get better with grazing your pastures, as your pastures produce better and everything else, you should be able to run more than one animal per acre per day, essentially. We always look at conservatively 2,000 pounds per day. So that's 2 animal units. And I'll get into that more when I talk about our custom grazing side. Custom grazing basically is you're taking somebody else's cattle for a given period of time and you're grazing them. Now you can get paid in various ways. You can get paid by the pound, you get paid by the day, you could get paid, whatever scenario that you want. We typically do a per day rate. Just because a lot of times what we're grazing for people is a hodgepodge. They might bring some steers, they might bring some yearlings, they might bring pairs. So we just sort of figure out a rate based on an animal unit, which is 1,000 pounds. So they bring us a pair, that's a 1,500-pound cow, that's 1.5 animal units, and we charge $1.50 a day per animal unit. So that ends up being $2.25 a day to graze that pair. The way we work it out is a pair includes that calf up until 6 months of age. And so once that calf hits 6 months, now you guys start charging for the calf then too. We've got calves that are a month old. There's calves over across the road that are several months old. They're all eating grass. It's not that they aren't eating anything, but it's pretty minimal essentially. So this is where I've got two animal units. So 180 days times 1.5, so that's $1.50 times 2 animal units. So $540, $226 profit per acre. Once again, we've got some dollars figured in for labor. Should that be higher or lower, everybody's situation is going to be different. One other key caveat, and I deleted this line out of here on purpose, is overhead, right? What's everybody got for overhead into their operations? And what are you figuring into every business line? And if you're not figuring overhead into your expenses, whether it's for grazing or for anything else, you really should be. We didn't want to financially go out and take out a loan or we didn't want to put our money in the cattle at that point in time. So we got into custom grazing. This is our small group of this breeding stock. All of our cows that have calved, some heifers, 2 cows that got a calf yet here. Our calving window is May through June. So we got a couple stragglers that will be popping out here in the next couple weeks. We brought them back here over the weekend when it was going to be 95, 100 plus heat index. And we actually let them out along the outside where they could get in the trees and stuff up here on top to get some shade. Otherwise, on our paddocks here, that big tree there is about the only shade that they get. There is tons of resources, whether it's PFI, NRCS, whatever you are comfortable working with, just take a look out there. There's lots of resources and cost shares out there to help with fencing because there's a lot of groups out there trying to promote getting cattle back on the land.